What is up, everybody? This is KH Unlimited, and this is episode 14 of Spill the Tearal, a JRPG podcast where we go over some JRPG news, releases, mechanics, what I've been playing, what I want to play, and more. And this is episode 14, and before we get into it, I'm going to be mentioning some stuff as I usually do, just some random shit about what's going on. This is something I want to mention last week. I think I just completely forgot to, so I'm going to mention it this week. But I'm obviously done Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is why I started playing Rebirth last week. And because of that, that means my Let's Play can be completed. I pretty much am, I believe, 4 episodes behind what is already out. So I don't know. I think 8 or 7 episodes are out, and I have like about 10 or 11 recording sessions recorded. So I have like a few more left. I may be experimenting with the next episode with shorter episodes, because if you watch the last one, the episode is about like an hour and some change long, maybe like near an hour and a half. And the recording session for that episode was like 3 hours. I just cut it down like pretty aggressively to get it down that low. But even then, a video that's like an hour or something long isn't that desirable. And like I noticed that too. And so I've noticed that these shorter episodes of the Let's Play usually do tend to perform better. I'm not 100% sure if that's a correlation, but that is something I've noticed. So what I'm thinking of maybe doing is for the next one, because I believe the next or one of the recording sessions is like about 4 hours. What I might do is just completely edit it and then just cut it down to shorter episodes just for that one and just see how they do, because not only would I be able to get episodes out quicker because I don't have to edit the entire thing to get an episode out, but it kind of makes sense too. Even with the last episode, so much happened that it was kind of hard for me to make a thumbnail, because I fought like maybe 3-4 final bosses. There were like huge character moments, blah blah blah, but I had to make one thumbnail for to represent the entire episode. And so if the next session I notice that there's like very clear obvious points where I can end, I'll probably try ending it there, releasing the episode. Maybe it'll be like 20-30 minutes and see how they do. And yeah, the only bad thing about that would be is I won't have like a defined intro and outro for those episodes, because I obviously only recorded at the beginning and ending of the recording session. So I'll see what I do for those. Maybe I'll like record those in after, like I'll edit the episode, see where I am, and just record them in after and add them. I'll see. But that is something I'm thinking about doing for the Let's Play, and those are going to come out as they do. Like I don't have a schedule for them because I literally edit those whenever I have time. But that's the current plan for now. The next thing I want to mention is I want to, like I always do, I show something cool that I have. I want to show this. I've had this for a bit, but I still want to show it. For audio listeners, I'm showing a figure. It is of Beast Gohan. He is cool as fuck. He has his, silver gray hair. He has like these red sparks. He has aura around him. He has like this rock base, which I really love. And the reason I'm showing this is because originally I was going to have a talking point right now, which is going to be me talking about how I might make a video of my figure collection, which seems very random for the type of content I do. But the reason I thought of that is because I was just kind of scrolling through my channel just to see how, things were. And I noticed that I had the Funko unboxing that I made years ago, like a long ass time ago, and it was when I unboxed my Vegeta Funko, and it was an Oswald the Rabbit Funko, and I thought that was funny that I did that, and it did like relatively well. So I'm like, you know what, I have a lot of figures since then. I'm not interested in really filming unboxings for them because I don't really see the point in doing that for a figure, but I thought like maybe it'd be fun to go over my figure collection and show them off. And I was gonna ask like, well, maybe I should do it, should I do it, blah blah blah, but I ended up doing it on a whim. I just picked up my camera, kind of vlog style, showed all my figures, recorded myself, give my thoughts on each one, stories behind them if I had any, and I uploaded it. And so what's funny is I uploaded it, but I wish I didn't do it the way I did, because I did it on a whim. I kind of just recorded myself, and it was very kind of sloppy and like loose, and it's fine. It's not that it was bad, but what I noticed, after recording or even during recording is that it's really fucking hard to hold the camera up for that long, especially because my figures are all on shelves. I have some that are on high shelves, so constantly holding my camera, pointing it up, it was really fucking tiring, and you could just hear me getting winded in the video explaining this stuff. And I originally also wanted to go over like my Lego and stuff too, but like I was getting tired, the video was getting long, and I think in the future, if I do this again, like maybe with my Lego or something, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to record a video like this, just me sitting down, and I'll talk about the stuff, and I'll just have B-roll showing it. Not only would that look better, I think it'd be a bit more dynamic, and like it would just be a shorter, more concise video than what that was, because that was just on a whim. I'd already recorded it, and I didn't want to like re-record everything, me talking about the stories and stuff. And so that video is out. Check it out if you're interested. But I just want to mention that like if I do that again in the future, hopefully I do it in a more cleaner way. And I'm thinking of maybe doing more stuff like that because I do want kind of more opportunities to be doing some more practical recording, while like something like this is fun where I might have gameplay on the screen for like some of my shorter videos. I do want to get like some more like hands-on stuff, like recording something physically in my hand. And so I was thinking of maybe I can record videos of like some limited or special edition stuff I have. Like I have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I got the Steelbook edition, I have cool Blu-ray special edition, so like maybe unboxing those or just showing them off would be a cool thing to do. But yeah, I'll see if I do that, but I just want to mention that in this section of the podcast. And other than that, I think it will just be the last thing I always do in this section, which is picking a random Spirited Away card and getting into the podcast. So I have the deck right here. Okay, we got the A of Hearts. I don't think I got this one, but it's pretty much that woman that takes care of the main character with the main character hugging her from behind the back. Very nice. But yeah, on that note, let's get into the first section, which is what I've been playing. In terms of what I've been playing, I have been playing two things. One is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, obviously, since I started that last week. What I didn't expect is that I already finished the game, so I will be talking about my thoughts of the rest of the game, the finale, etc., etc. And also I played some Final Fantasy XIV. I did the Final Fantasy XVI event, which is going away today as of recording this, so by the time this episode comes out it might already be done. I'm not sure what time they're ending it, but I'll be talking about my experience with that because that was the first time I actually did an event in Final Fantasy XIV. But let's first start with Rebirth. Now with Rebirth, I finished it pretty quickly. I did not do any of the side quests. I'm going back to do them now, which I'll be talking about a bit, but I loved Rebirth. I think it was really good compared to Remake. I feel like I mentioned this somewhere, I'm not sure where, maybe it was on the last week's podcast, but Remake straight up just feels like a tech demo compared to Rebirth. Rebirth just seems a lot more clean, a lot more like well done. But even more important, like when I was playing Rebirth, it was just blowing my mind every time I got farther in the game and they introduced a new environment, a new location, a new mechanic, whatever. And I'm like, how are they doing this? Because you know, Remake was Midgar, and it was just Midgar. But here, we're in this open world. We have a town, and then they take us to this new town, and then you would go into this underground cave area, and then you would go to this other city, and then you'd go to another town, then another cave, and blah, 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 like a different location. I was like, how the fuck are they adding so much? Like, at this point, I don't know what the rest of FF7 is, which the third game is going to cover, but like, they have to reuse this, right? Like, there's no way everything they made was only for this game. It just seems like too much, where like, I'm going to be talking about this more, but I was going back and doing the side quest, so like I actually got to explore one of the regions a bit more, which is the grasslands, and I pretty much 100%ed all the side quests and the kind of like random points on the map there. And when I completed that, it felt like I completed a game. Like the amount of work I did to complete that region felt equivalent to if I had done that in another open world game. But there's like 4 more regions I still have to do, so this game feels very fucking massive. And so yeah, it's just like, it's mind-blowing how big it was. And the thing that I love the most, which I didn't really feel with Remake, is I kept wanting to play and going farther in the story because they were giving me enough story as I played. Whereas Remake, there was a lot of dungeon parts and there was a lot of padding here and there. With Rebirth, I didn't feel that as much. It felt like I was getting story. I just kept going and kept going. And of course, there were some moments which felt a bit more dungeony or a bit patty, but like, there weren't any like standouts because I literally don't remember a single example of something being padded. So I think Rebirth did a great job of feeling very new, very fresh, and really pulling you along the game, because pretty much until I finished the game, I was always thinking of Rebirth when I was working. I'm like, can I get off, play Rebirth? During breaks between work, I would pull up my Portal, play Rebirth. Like, I would just play Rebirth, like any free time I had, I was playing Rebirth, and I played it entirely on my Portal. It was like very nice, worked well, combat was fun. But yeah, I think Rebirth was like a fantastic game. But let's get a bit more into the story now, which will obviously have spoilers, but yes, let's get into it now. Okay, so as I was playing Rebirth, I mentioned this last week, but pretty much anytime something happened in the story or I thought was interesting, I just took a note of it. So I have this long list of notes from like wherever I left off on the last episode of Spill the Tearal to the end of the game. What's kind of unfortunate, or maybe fortunate if you don't want a lot of rambling, is a lot of the points are just kind of nil now, because pretty much most of the points that I was putting down was like my thought points of what was going on in terms of like, Zack is in his own timeline maybe, or is it like he's a clone, or is there a clone situation with Aerith? Why are there 2 Aeriths? Why are there 2 Clouds? Blah, blah, blah. But most of those points just aren't relevant anymore because I finished the game, so I kind of have a better idea of what's going on. So I'm straight up going to skip all my notes pretty much and just talk about what I thought of the end of the game pretty much, because the middle of the game is pretty much you just playing through the story and playing a bit of Zack here and there. And that's something I wish they did more of. While I was playing as Cloud, I obviously enjoy the Cloud parts. I always wanted to go back to Zack to see what he was doing, but it was always disappointing with how short you get to control Zack. Like straight up, I remember there's one point where I was playing as Cloud. I switched over to Zack, and then I stopped playing for like that session, so I just put it away. And I was kind of looking forward to going back and playing as Zack. So the next day I came back, I turned it on. I played as Zack. I walked like maybe 5 steps. There was like a short 20-second cutscene, and then I switched back to Cloud. I was like, God fucking damn it, man! I want to play as Zack because Zack is kind of like my character. I like him more than Cloud, and so like. You barely get Zack in the game. You switch to him every once in a while, and it's a very short segment, but he still is there. But pretty much from my understanding, what the entire Zack, part of the game ended up being was it was just the game's way of showcasing that there's multiple timelines. And this became clearer at the end because I literally have notes of this where I was very confused on what was happening, but pretty much the entire plot line of Zack is, he found Aerith's body, in quotes. It's technically not a body because they're taking care of her. He took it to Aerith's mom's house, Amara, and they were just taking care of Aerith and Cloud because Cloud is unconscious too from Crisis Core. And that's the entire plot. You're just taking care of them. Zack goes out and meets Biggs too. They kind of become homies. And pretty much near the end of the story, there's this moment where Biggs said he's gonna blow up a reactor and assumably kill himself with it. And Zack kind of has to choose what he wants to do. Does he want to go to Shinra to find Hojo to help Cloud? Or does he want to go to Biggs to stop him from blowing up the reactor? Now, where it gets confusing is he literally points down 2 tunnels and says like, okay, if I go this way, I'm helping Cloud. If I go down this way, I'm helping Biggs. And he ends up riding a motorcycle down the way where he's going to help Cloud, and it ends there. And I'm like, okay, cool, he's helping Cloud. But the next time we come to play as him, he's with Biggs, and he pretty much is with Biggs at a reactor stopping him from blowing it up. So I was very confused. I'm like, did he turn around at some point? Like, what happened? Like, why the fuck is he here? But he ended up talking to Biggs, stopping him. Biggs ended up getting shot and dies, and then like Zack, for some, I don't know, it was very weird where Zack is kind of laughing about it. He's like, oh, this is my role, I can do whatever I want. And he just jumped off the reactor, and then it ended there. It was like very fucking weird. And then you play as Cloud more, you come back to Zack, and now this shows him in like a third situation where like he didn't go with Cloud or Biggs, but now he's at a church where Aerith would be, and he's just waiting outside. And so at this point I was confused on like, what's going on? Why are they showing so many different things? And it slowly became clear what they were trying to show is that we're just seeing different realities. We're pretty much seeing different splinterings of like what would happen if he went with Biggs or if he went, to the church, blah blah blah. And the entire plotline pretty much of the game is Sephiroth trying to reunite all the worlds, because as you play the game, you would meet these black robes and they would keep on muttering reunion. And pretty much the reason is Sephiroth is trying to create a reunion of all the worlds/realities. And that was, the entire plot point. So I liked it. I thought it was fine. The only disappointing part of that, in my opinion, is that it didn't feel like Zack was an actual character that, they thought of as being a character. Like, pretty much what Zack was there for was his reality. Like, what the point of the plot was that he is in a different reality. But specifically, Zack as a character wasn't important, unfortunately. So, like, theoretically, they could have replaced Zack with an original character in this game if they really wanted to. And it would have served the exact same purpose for the most part. Which sucks, because I wanted Zack to be more important. I wanted there to be more of a moment between him and Cloud. And you do get that in the finale. I thought the finale was fucking awesome, where you're fighting Sephiroth and Zack and Cloud team up from different realities. They come together, they fight together, then they have to fight the same boss in their own realities alone. I thought it was done masterfully. But I just wish they handled Zack more as a character that, like, was specific to him. And it was very depressing because as you got to near the end of the game too, Zack starts realizing, what's going on. He finds out that Aerith is going to die by Sephiroth because Marlene knew about that. For some reason, they kind of flash back to the moment in Remake, which I thought was weird when I was playing it, where Marlene and Aerith had this weird moment together where Aerith tells her to, like, shush. And apparently that's when Marlene saw that Aerith would die. Through the conversation, Zack learns that Aerith does like Cloud, which you could tell by the look on his face he was kind of sad about. But I thought Zack could have been maybe done better, but at the end of the day, I thought it was fine. Will he be in the third game? I don't know. His final line in the game, I think, was pretty much referring to one of Sephiroth's lines. Sephiroth pretty much said in the fight when you're fighting him is that if worlds can be reunited, they can be torn apart too. And that's what happens when you're fighting him. And Zack's final line pretty much is, if they can be torn apart, they can be reunited once more again too. And so there's maybe the hope of, the worlds coming together again. I hope. I wish somehow, I don't know how the fuck they would do it. There's just like at the end, a happy universe where, like, everyone who needs to be alive is alive and Zack is there with them for some reason. I just hope that's a reality. But who knows if that'll happen? We don't really know. But I guess going more to the final battle was very cool. It was Sephiroth. You fight him first as a human, and then you fight him as a big ass, like, weird monster, which kind of seemed like a fusion with Genova. And I love that this game did what I love from more classical JRPGs, because I don't think modern JRPGs do this that often, where JRPGs are a genre very specific where as you play the game, you will usually get a lot of party members. And I remember I did this in, I believe it was E7. If not, E7 is one of the East games where you would get like a new party member throughout the game, and then they would leave and you'd get a new one. They would leave, you get another one as you kind of went to different cities. And the final boss of the game, which I think it was E7 or was another East game, pretty much every single party member you ever had came to help you. And they pretty much created their own parties and you fought as them. So you were fighting a final boss that was very tall in the East game. You as the main character with your two main party members fought like the Lex, for example. Then it'll transfer to like another party of 3 party members that you had previously. You fought as them to get the torso of the boss. Then you went to the head and 3 more party members fought the head. And it was very cool showing everyone together, and you got to use these new party compositions that you never really experienced before. And I thought that was done pretty fucking cool. And you get the exact same thing in Rebirth where you're fighting Sephiroth, and you pretty much get different team compositions where I don't remember any of them, but like, for example, you fight as Cloud and Aerith maybe, and then you go to Baron and Yuffie, and then you get to Red and Tifa, for example. So there's a lot of combinations they were doing like that, which I thought was very cool. And I thought the entire concept of fighting this kind of weird Sephiroth boss across realities is just so fucking dope. That concept is just so cool that it's one bad guy, but you guys are damaging him throughout realities, where Cloud is fighting him in one reality, Zack is fighting him in another reality, Barrett and the rest are fighting in another reality. That was just very fucking cool. And yeah, I think as it's like a final set piece, I thought it was very well done. And the actual finale of the game to me was like weird, where like it was very open-ended. It was I don't want to say unsatisfying. Maybe it was kind of unsatisfying. I'm fine with open ending, so it's not really that unsatisfying to me. But it pretty much ended. Aerith does die as per fate. She dies by Sephiroth. Her dying was very weird too, where Sephiroth stabbed her, and it kept flickering between realities where she's dead and she's not dead. And then even throughout the ending and like the full ending of the CG cutscene, she is still there in spirit, and only Cloud can see her, I think, for some reason. And so that's a thing. But yeah, pretty much the CG cutscene at the end, everyone was very depressed, and they pretty much go with Sid to pretty much continue the story you've been doing. The entire story was you as a gang trying to find Sephiroth and kill him, and that just continues. But what's very depressing is near the kind of last maybe like 10% of the game, or 20%, Cloud starts becoming more and more evil, in quotes, where he starts being an asshole to Aerith and Tifa because his Sephiroth side, I guess, is pretty much taking over. I'm assuming it's because of the cells he has that he got in Crisis Core, but his Sephirothness pretty much ended up coming out, and he pretty much was very fixated on getting to Sephiroth and getting the black materia, which is what Sephiroth wanted. And he was pretty much, at the end of the day, a black robe. That was pretty much one of the twists where like he's not any different from them. He's doing what they did. They even flash back to a CG cutscene they had in Remake where they showed these black robes like in the wind, and they kind of showed an extended version where one of those black robes was indeed Cloud, which I thought was really fucking cool. Near the end of the game, he was becoming more of an asshole. He was kind of like talking back to Aerith and Tifa, and he even ended up giving the black materia to Sephiroth. And he even fought back against Tifa at some points, almost killed her. But what kind of sucks is, at the end, that kind of goes away. He kind of like breaks out of it. But at the very end, for some reason, he finds that he still has a black materia in his pocket. And you kind of see the look on his face where like he pretty much reverts back to kind of like the evil version of himself, where he's just like, okay, fuck everything. He just wants to go to Sephiroth. You could tell he's kind of being a bit more curt than usual. And it was very weird as he takes a black materia, he puts on his Buster Sword, and it kind of transforms into like this black and red version, kind of, but then goes back to normal. So I thought that was very interesting. I'm not sure if that's the thing that in the original FF7. So like that's very cool, but I'm usually not a fan when the main character has this kind of like evil stint. I didn't enjoy that in Spider-Man 2, where there was a moment where Peter was kind of evil. I did not enjoy playing as him because like he just felt like an asshole. And so even with Cloud, when he was turning an asshole, I really enjoyed that slowly they made you stop playing as him. So slowly you would just be playing more as Aerith and not Cloud. And I really appreciated that in terms of gameplay, because the more he was becoming evil, the less of a main character he was becoming too, which I thought was very cool. But yeah, the game ended that way. It was just that he was just kind of more fixated on fighting Sephiroth again, and the game just ended. So that makes me very curious on what the next game is going to be. I didn't know until I read the art book, because I do have the art book, where it literally said like, yeah, this is a trilogy. There's going to be one more game. So like, there's going to be one more game to finish it off, which I'm very excited about because there's another one. I'm also slightly disappointed because I kind of wanted to play the original FF7 after this just so I can get the full story. But if there's still a third game, I'm going to hold off to play the original FF7 until I finish the third game. But yeah, I'm very curious to see how this ends. I don't know what the ending of the series is going to be. I legitimately thought that Sephiroth would be done this game, and if there was a next game, I didn't think there would be a next game, but if there was, it'd be something else. But no, it's the exact same plot of like, we're going to find Sephiroth and see what happens. I'm really hoping that they tackle Cloud's evilness very soon. That was one of the annoying points of the game where, like, clearly Cloud is being an asshole to everyone. Clearly he is seeing things. He's acting very weird. He's getting knocked out. And mentally he's just not, like, there with everyone. But no one really questions it. They know it's happening because sometimes you'll hear Tifa comment about it, like, to Aerith or something, that, like, your Cloud's being very weird. But they'll never talk to him about it, which I thought was very weird. Like, especially Barrett. Like, Barrett, like, I feel like would be, like, very curt and be like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? Because he would be in, like, complete asshole to Aerith and Tifa and in a lot of points of the game. But no one would say anything. So I'm really hoping that at the start of whatever the third game is, that they like right away, like, Barrett's gonna be like, okay, yo, what's going on? Like, well, what are you doing? What have you been seeing? And they kind of talk about that point right away and get that away, because I don't want him being evil to be a huge plot point in the next game, but it might be based on how the, you know, this game ended with the whole black material on his Buster Sword, but we will see. And just a few more, like, disparate small things that I have notes on that I want to mention. One thing that I thought was interesting is at some point in the game, Cloud does remember Zack again because he just starts getting memories of him. And one thing that I found weird was he pretty much remembers the original reality of the mission of when he went to Nibelheim. And apparently what ended up happening is, in the original mission, like, we play at the start of the game, which was the fake version that he thought, there was a moment where, like, a Shinra member fell off a waterfall and died, or just went missing, I guess. But when you remember the actual version, he found out that it was Zack that fell off the mountain and assumably died. I thought that was very weird because that didn't happen in Crisis Core. And even if, like, they want to retcon it that it did happen, that just doesn't make sense. Like, I think this is still a different reality from Crisis Core, because nothing like that what happened. Zack goes through the mission fine and, like, helps Cloud. So, like, I think they were showing, like, pretty much a completely separate reality from Crisis Core, which was interesting, where, like, Zack did die, in quotes maybe, or went missing at that moment, and, like, there's just another history of possibly, if this is true, of Zack falling off, which it should be because Tifa even corroborates it, there is a chance that Zack in this universe is alive. I think that was the point of that, because why else would you change that he fell off a waterfall? And specifically when you played the mission, Sephiroth said he couldn't find the person who fell off, so Zack is probably still alive in the universe, maybe. I think that's what the point of that was, but that was something I noticed that I thought was very interesting. Another thing was, it was very weird and surreal kind of seeing the universe that Zack was in, because very clearly, as you were getting to the end of the game, it became clear that everyone in that universe accepted death, where you would have the scene that I talked about where when Biggs died, he just started smiling and he jumped off the Mako reactor. Later, Cloud and Aerith wake up and they go to, like, different stores to hang out, and they would be giving away stuff for free, and they would be saying, like, yeah, we're gonna die, but, like, hopefully you enjoy, and things like that. It was very weird and, like, apocalyptic, and, like, the vibe was off. And I assume the point of that entire world was pretty much Aerith knowing that she was gonna die. That's what it felt like, but I don't know. Like, pretty much every other reality in this game to me is very confusing, because you don't know how many realities there are. You don't know which reality you're ever in. And so I just thought that entire section near the end where, like, Cloud and Aerith are hanging out and everyone had accepted that the world was going to end was very weird feeling. But yeah, that is something I want to mention too. And pretty much the final point of the game I want to talk about is they've had this entire storyline in the game, which was more prominent in the back half, where there was pretty much some tension between Wutai and Shinra. And so the head of Shinra now is Rufus, which is the son of the previous president. And in terms of Wutai, we know Viceroy Saruf, which is kind of like, I think, the head of Wutai, maybe? I don't know what the fuck a Viceroy is, but they're never seen in the story, and that was kind of a thing they kept mentioning. And you also had Glenn Lodbrok, which is a guy who apparently used to be ex-soldier, and he always showed up in Rufus's office kind of magically in a black robe, which is kind of fucking weird. But yeah, Glenn was always there kind of as a representative of Wutai, and would talk to Rufus here and there, and there'd be weird moments where Rufus would be like, I killed you in the past, how the fuck are you here? And it was very weird. And at the end, there was this kind of, like, last confrontation where Glenn was talking about how there was a conference they had, and he was kind of disappointed that Saruf didn't show up in the conference, and it made him look bad. Then Rufus pretty much said is probably because the venue wasn't up to his liking. And as that conversation was going on, I was like, is Rufus Saruf? Is that what's going on? And then I realized Rufus Saruf, it's the same fucking name, it's just a phonetic anagram, and I was like, god fucking damn it. So, like, it's very weird that Rufus, the head of Shinra, is, I guess, the head of Wutai too. So I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what's going on in terms of that plot. If he's the head of both, why are they fighting? Like, I don't know, but I thought that was very cool. But I still don't get, like, who Glenn is exactly, because Glenn was apparently dead, and then Rufus did end up killing Glenn again, but Glenn was also technically a black robe, as they showed, because he could turn into Sephiroth, but Rufus put, like, 30 fucking bullets into Glenn's head, and he died there. But what's really mind-blowing to me, which is unrelated to this game kind of, is I was on Twitter today, and I saw a tweet about Rebirth, and someone had mentioned something about Glenn in the replies, and then I fucking realized that the Glenn from Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, a mobile game, is Glenn Lodbrok. I had no idea, because I played Final Fantasy Ever Crisis for a bit. If you don't know, it's a mobile game of Final Fantasy 7. You'll play as Zack, Cloud, you have like a early story of Sephiroth, and you have this kind of third group, which is this guy named Glenn and two of his homies. And I thought these were just original characters made for the game, but that soldier Glenn Lodbrok is fucking this guy, and I was like, holy shit, that's him, because in Ever Crisis, he's just kind of like this almost Zack-like dude, where he's kind of like silly and like more chill. The fact that he goes to this path where like he's part of Wutai now, he seems kind of bad, maybe. I thought that was very interesting, and I'm probably going to play Ever Crisis again because it was a good game. I just fell off at some point, and that's pretty cool knowing that they are the same Glenn, like it's the same character. So yeah, that is something I noticed too. But that's pretty much all I have to say about Rebirth. The final thing I want to kind of do for fun is guess what the next game was going to be called. The first one was called Remake. This was called Rebirth. I was trying to think of what names would make sense. I think the one that sounds the best would be Final Fantasy 7 Reprise. I don't know how that would relate to anything. Honestly, I don't know how Rebirth even relates to this game, if I'm being honest. So Reprise could work well. It means a kind of repeat or another. It may tie into the multiple worlds aspect of it. Another name that I thought would be cool and it could be related to the game. It doesn't sound as nice because it's more syllables, but it's Final Fantasy 7 Reunite. I think that'd be pretty cool because Zach did mention that the worlds may reunite again, and if that's a plot point, that'd be cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And the next and last game I want to be talking about in this segment is Final Fantasy XIV. I talked about this in a previous Spill the Tearal episode, but they had a event for Final Fantasy XVI where all I knew about it is that Clive was in it. The Final Fantasy XVI's version of Ifrit would be in it, and the reason I really want to play it is because the rewards you would get from it. So pretty much you get Clive's armor, which I didn't really care about, but you got Torgal as a mount, which I really fucking wanted, and you also get this kind of mini minion of Torgal, which like I was like whatever about, but I really wanted the Torgal mount. I thought that'd be really fucking cool if I could just ride Torgal around, the world. And so it was going to be going away today, which is May 8th. And so again, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I don't know if it's up or not. If it still is, you still have time to finish it, because I would say the total time to finish it was probably 30 minutes. Honestly, if you don't give a fuck about the cutscenes, you could probably do it a lot quicker. But pretty much from start to finish, what happens is you find Clive. There are some cutscenes with Clive. You do a fight against Ifrit with Clive. You lead Clive back to where he came from, and it's done. Gameplay-wise, that's what happened. To be more specific, I really enjoyed the story route they went with this, but because what I expected, which is based on nothing because I've never done a limited event in Final Fantasy XIV, what I expected is that Clive would be there. They would just be like, yeah, this is just a guy who's here for some reason. You would just do some kind of quest line with them. What I was very impressed with was that the entire plot line was pretty much you trying to help Clive figure out where he was from, which I didn't know they would delve into that, because that is something that would be on my mind, like, why is he here? And that's literally an entire plot line where Clive just has amnesia. He's like, why am I here? What's going on? And pretty much as you go through the cutscenes, he reacts to words like Garuda and Ifrit, and through that we think like it's me, Clive, and this other wandering guy with us, and you guys have an idea of maybe we should fight Ifrit with Clive, and maybe that will unlock or something. And as we summon Ifrit, it transforms into Clive's version for some reason, and then you get to fight Ifrit with Clive. And I thought the fight was really fucking cool because, usually if you play Final Fantasy XIV, the combat is like normal MMORPG combat where you have kind of like your hotbar at the bottom and you just choose moves. But they added new mechanics just for this fight, or at least I think so. Maybe it's in other fights too. But they had two main buttons they added. One was this Rising Flame move, which is pretty much a move that Clive does in Final Fantasy 16, which is cool. And they had another move, which is really cool, is throughout the battle, whenever Ifrit would do like a super cool move, they would have a countdown on the screen and tell you exactly when to dodge. And if you timed your dodge right, you would get to press the dodge again and pretty much counterattack. That's pretty much the main way you did damage to Ifrit. So I thought that was very cool because you had kind of like the normal aspect of Final Fantasy XIV where you get to just use your normal rotation of moves and attack Ifrit, but you also had to, be dodging and counter-attacking to really damage him. It felt a lot more like a real-time combat game, even though this technically is, but it made it feel a lot more Final Fantasy 16-y, which I think was a point, which I thought was very cool. And there were two moments in the fight which were really cool. One that I died on because I didn't know what the fuck to do, but there's a moment where Clive is kind of, I think he's stuck or something, where he's like, oh, yo, can you protect me? And you're supposed to protect him. And pretty much what happens is you go in front of him and you pretty much block out an attack from Ifrit and you make this cool fucking shield. And it's a really cool fucking moment and you have to tap your button fast to pretty much survive through it. I thought that was very cool. I'd never seen that in Final Fantasy 14 before. And what's very cool is that same moment happens again, but Clive saves you from it, where he creates a shield around you and helps you. So I thought that was very fucking cool. I love the vibes between your character and Clive. I thought the plot line was dope. The fight was very cool. And yeah, after that fight, Clive pretty much remembers where he's from. He remembers they're trying to help Joshua. He remembers that he's Ifrit and you kind of have to help him back. After Torgal gets summoned to this world for some reason, Torgal helps him back and he's sent to his world. And so that was pretty much the entire event. But I just want to mention that I was very surprised with how good it was, and I kind of liked the size of it. It was very small. I did it like within my morning walk. I was walking on my portal, and I played the entire thing. Again, it was like 30-ish minutes. It could have been faster if I didn't die on Ifrit. I died because the first time you used was to protect Clive. I didn't know what the fuck you're supposed to do. I kind of stood where it was telling me to, but nothing happened. But you had to kind of click on it, and I was playing the console version, which is kind of new to me, and so I didn't know how to do that, and so I died. But yeah, I thought it was like a 10 out of 10, story-wise, length-wise, gameplay-wise, and like I kind of look forward to if they do more of these. I'm very curious if they did this with like other games, like with Rebirth out, would they do this with like Cloud, maybe Zack, because Clive kind of fits because he's from a fantasy world and he kind of talks like everyone in 14. For Zack, he'd probably be like, where the fuck am I? Like, what? Why are you guys talking all weird? Like, because everyone in 14 talks very like old Englishy, and so it'd be very interesting to see Cloud or Zack in this world and to see how they'd react. But yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to if they have more of these events in the future. But that pretty much rounds out this segment of what I've been playing, and from here we'll go to our next segment, which is a JRPG I'm looking forward to. Now, for this segment where I talk about a JRPG I'm looking forward to, this was surprising to me because I didn't know this was a game that existed. It existed in Japan, and apparently it was confirmed to come in the West, and apparently it's releasing like in a few weeks, and it's very weird that I didn't know about it because it's a Trails game, but Trails is making a mobile game, which I don't think they've had before from what I know, and it's called Trails of Cold Steel Northern War, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because they had an anime with the exact same name. At first, I was kind of disappointed with the name because I didn't watch the anime, and I wasn't really interested in it because they pretty much created like a lot of original characters for it and a whole new plot line, which I wasn't that interested in. I kind of wanted, even if they made a new plot line, I kind of wanted the characters from the Trails games to be the ones they use because they have so many fucking characters in Trails. But they created a new cast of characters, and I didn't watch the anime, but maybe this will get me interested in it because I'll read the logline so you'll get a better idea of it. Embark on an epic adventure with the legend of heroes Trails of Cold Steel Northern War. Set between Trails of Cold Steel 2 and 3, this story follows the journey of Lavi, member of the Northern Jaegers, born and raised in Northumbria, tasked with a daunting mission alongside her teammates Martin, Iseria, and Talion. They must infiltrate the Erebonian Empire to gather intel on a mysterious threat endangering the security of Northumbria. Now, that plot does seem cool. I'm assuming that's probably the same plot as anime. I can already see what the how things are gonna go because this takes place between Trails of Cold Steel 2 and 3. That was a time where there was a time skip then, but that was a time where Reen was helping the country as kind of like a military weapon. I can kind of guess if they're going to infiltrate Erebonia, they're going to be stopped by Reen, and that's where we're going to kind of get the Reen moment in this. But I thought that was very cool. I looked at some videos of the mobile game, like the trailers they had. I like the visual style. It looks like kind of like more anime style than even like the console games. The combat looked fun, and I think Trails as an IP is probably perfect for mobile because I think one thing you need in mobile is a huge cast of characters so you can do the gacha pulls and all that. But also, Trails' world, I think, is just, like, the best. Like, it's so fucking expansive. It's so detailed. They can draw me anywhere in Zemuria, and, like, it'd be really fun. And they literally say, like, yeah, you get to explore Zemuria in the game. That's pretty dope. In terms of gameplay, they kind of mentioned modes that you'd expect in a mobile game like this, where they talked about, like, there's raids modes, there's, like, a dungeon exploration, things like that. So, it is going to be your, like, normal gacha type mobile game, but it's going to be Trails based, which I'm really excited about because it comes out, I don't think I wrote the date, but I believe it was like May 28th, 29th, something like that, somewhere at the end of May. And so being able to play in a few weeks is pretty fucking cool because I literally just found out about it. I was just Googling some JRPGs and I found out this was the thing. But yeah, there's really not much more to talk about it because the trailers didn't show much from what I saw, but apparently it's been out in Japan for a year, and so I'm very excited to try it. My main worry would be one, if they focus too much on these anime original characters, hopefully they're written and designed well, because I've seen too many like anime or whatever that whenever, for example, with an anime, whenever like the anime introduces an anime only character or a plot line, it's very fucking obvious because their design is just very different, their personalities are very different, the plot is very different from like the normal manga. And so if these characters are going to be in Trails, hopefully they're written well, they're designed well, and they kind of blend seamlessly. Because if they blend well, I don't really care, that's fine. Then I'm cool with the kind of getting to know them and maybe even getting to the anime. But hopefully that's done well. But also on top of that, I'm hoping that the content of the game hopefully sticks to whatever is out in the West. I'm kind of worried that they're going to be, shoveling in the content that's already available in Japan, for example. And so if the game comes out before Trails to Daybreak in the West, which it is, Hopefully they don't have any Trails to Daybreak content. I don't want any of the character polls. I don't want any plot points. I don't want anything. Hopefully it's just of the games that we have in the West. And as those games come out to the West, and then they start adding the content. Hopefully it's not like, it doesn't have parity with the Japanese version, because then there would just be too much spoilers, and then unfortunately I wouldn't be able to play the game. But right now I do 100% plan to play the game. I fucking love Trails. As of the fact that there's a mobile game, hell yeah. The only negative part that it's based on the anime, which kind of sucks, but like maybe I'll like it. We'll see. But yeah, that is a JRPG I'm looking forward to, and hopefully it will be good. But now the next segment will be JRPG news that I think is dope. And with the JRPG news segment, like always, I try to cover any big JRPG news, and other than that, anything that I found interesting. This week is a very slow week. Like usually I have to go through a fuck ton of JRPG news stories and kind of pick the ones that I like. This week there literally was almost nothing, and so I have a couple of things. They are kind of cool. One of them is about Metaphor Refantazio, so let's go with that first. Pretty much the headline is Metaphor Refantazio details fast and squad battle system, party formation, gauntlet runner, facilities, and more. And pretty much what this article is from Gamatsu. Like always, I source my news from Gamatsu, but pretty much this article details everything new in Metaphor Refantazio, because I assume there was some media push after the showcase that happened a week or two ago, and they pretty much go into heavy fucking detail of like all these new things. So like the battle system, they talk about there's like a fast mode where you get to fight in real time. There's the squad mode where you get to play in turn based. They talk about the gauntlet runner in more detail. They talk about the parties, the archetypes, etc. I didn't go through the entire article, and I'm not going to be going through it here, because the same reason why I don't like watching trailers for games, because I don't want to be spoiled or kind of like see things too early. I feel the same with this. As I was reading through the article, I just saw that this information was like way too fucking detailed for me to know before the game comes out. Like I do not need to know this much before the game comes out. This is stuff that I should just be learning about naturally in the game. And so as I felt that, I thought that it'd be probably best for me not to cover all the details, but I kind of told you the gist of what is covered in the article. So if you are interested in learning more about this, you can check out the article yourself on Gamatsu, where they kind of go into deep detail on everything Metaphor Refantazio, because it is the longest fucking article talking about all the points that I mentioned. But yeah, that was the first news story. And the second and last one is a turn-based combo RPG designated demigod announced for PC. Technically, I don't think this is a JRPG, but it kind of looks like one, and I thought it was interesting, so I thought I'd bring it up because there's not that much news this week. But let me go on the logline first, which is Designated Demigod is a new kind of combo RPG where you and your pup piece together flashy combos to dismantle a plethora of enemies. Discover your hidden powers as you find yourself hurtled into a conflict amongst the gods. And the main reason I brought this up because it looks pretty interesting visually, where it has this lo-fi 3D environment where it's kind of low polyish, but the characters are 2D, so they're kind of hand-drawn looking. And what's very weird is because the characters are 2D, you would expect that as kind of like a side-scrolly kind of game, and the characters are animated as if it's a side-scroller. Like you'll see like the characters walking from left to right, but I saw in the trailer that there are some segments where you do get to walk in 3D space, which is very funny because the animation of the character will look like it's running to the left, but the character will be going forward in space. So I thought that was very interesting and something that I hadn't really seen before. But the game looks visually cool. The plot seems interesting, where like you and your dog are just trying to fucking figure out what's going on with your new powers. I thought that was kind of cool. So I thought it was interesting based on those reasons. And also it looked turn-based, so if you're into that, that's good. But I do want to preface that when I was watching the trailer, it does have a cheap indie like feel. Not even like indie these days is really fucking good. Like you have very quality indie games, but this game did look more on the cheaper side, kind of mobile gamey. And when I looked at some of the past games of the developer, they were mobile games. This game looks better than those older mobile games they made, but it still does have this kind of cheap feel to it when you look at the art and kind of like the UI and things like that. So we'll see how it is when it comes out. I probably won't be picking it up, but I thought it was interesting, especially because they labeled it a combo RPG, which I think is referring to the fact that you get to play as your character and dog, I believe. But yeah, if you're interested in it, check it out. It is called Designated Demigod. And that pretty much rounds up the news for this week. And from here, we'll go on to the JRPGs that are releasing this week. For the JRPGs that are releasing this week, I'm going to be talking about the JRPGs that are releasing from May 5th to May 11th. And this week, as always, actually, I source my releases from icicledisaster.com and rpgsite.net. And this week, we have 2 releases. I think both releases are like not new releases, they're just coming to different systems, so that is one thing. But the first one I want to talk about is coming out on May 9th, and it's called Adventure Bar Story. It is coming out on PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. So a couple of things about this. One, I've talked about this game in the past. It was on mobile, so if you've heard me talk about it, that's why. And also, it says May 9th is the release date, but I checked on Steam, it's already out. I checked on PlayStation, it's already out. So like I don't know what that's about. Either this release date that I've been seeing around is wrong, or just a release early, I'm not sure. But yeah, it is out, or it is coming out tomorrow on PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. And I talked about this game And I have a logline so you guys could know if you didn't hear about it before. But Adventure Bar Story is a bar management RPG in which you aim to become the top restaurant in the kingdom. The story progresses as your bar's rank goes up. Your bar's rank will go up based on your performance at the Royal Cooking Contest and your accumulated sales. And honestly, this game weirdly looks very good to me. And the reason I say weirdly is because usually when I cover games here, even if they look really good, I'm kind of like, yeah, it looks good. I'm probably not going to play it. There's something about this game where I might actually play it. I don't know what it is. It looks very fucking clean, and I said this before when I talked about it when it was a mobile game. It does not look like a mobile game at all. It has pixel graphics. The actual anime art style of it, I think, looks really fucking good too. Like, it's not like cheesy looking. It kind of reminds me of the Neon Falcom style, which I thought was cool. So it, like, legitimately, I fucking love the art, so I might give it a chance just based on that. And based on the plot, it literally just sounds chill. You're just trying to set up a bar and see how good that does. And on PC, there's a demo too, so I may end up trying that and if I like it, get it on PlayStation. But yeah, it looks really cool. It was originally a mobile game, apparently, but like, it does not look like a mobile game at all. So it is a game I may be trying, and if I do, I'll probably talk about it on this podcast. But yeah, Adventure Bar Story, May 9th, PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC. And the second release, which I'll be going over very quick because it is not that big, but Sea of Stars, which is a game that's been out for a while, is getting a physical edition, and that's releasing on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, and Switch on the 10th of May. And here's a quick logline in case you don't know what that is. It tells the story of two children of the solstice who combine the powers of the sun and moon to perform eclipse magic, the only force capable of fending off the monstrous creations of the evil alchemist known as the Fleshmancer. And yeah, I think I've talked about this a bit in the past before. It looks very cool to me. I just haven't played it. They even had an update, or they're having an update where they're going to allow co-op gameplay too, which is really cool. But yeah, this is just a release for the physical edition, so like nothing truly new. But I do know that people were asking for a physical edition of this game, which is cool. But that rounds out all the releases for JRPGs this week, and from here we're going to go on to a JRPG mechanic that I think is cool. Now, the JRPG mechanic that I'm going to be talking about this week is a mechanic that I noticed in Rebirth, and it is a mechanic that I've experienced in past games too, but I really appreciate it in Rebirth especially. And the mechanic I'm talking about is whenever the game forces you to use characters that are not the main character. So in Rebirth, the main character is Cloud, but you have a lot of members in your party such as Tifa, Barrett, Kate Sith, fucking Red, etc., etc. You have a lot of party members, and throughout the game, whenever you're in a battle, you can switch to them whenever you want. But I always appreciated whenever there was a section of the game, and there were a lot of sections in the game where they pretty much split up the party. So they'll have sections where like maybe Tifa, Aerith, and Red are in one party, and Barrett, Yuffie, and whoever else I didn't mention are in another party. And so whenever that happens, whenever you're in that secondary party, you will have to be mainly using Barrett or Yuffie or whoever. And they do this a lot of the times, to the point where you kind of get a good idea of every single character. So for example, one character that I wasn't using that much in the game was Red. I just didn't really have an interest in it, but there was an entire segment of the game where you are using Red solely the entire time, and he is a main character. And by the time I got finished with the segment, Red was a character that I actually enjoyed using, and whenever I needed to use him, I really fucking loved using him. And not only does it let you use a character and maybe get to like them, but it lets you get used to them, which I think is very important. So if there is a part in the game where you have to use that character for some reason, you kind of know your rotations with them, you know what moves to use, and you know what's good. So I thought that was really cool. And just overall, I just think it's a good decision. It's if you have a mechanic in the game where you get to use other characters, if they force you to use that character for a certain amount of time, that'll force you to maybe get to like the character, and it'll maybe make you use that character in the future when you don't have to. So maybe if I did like Red a lot, I would just always default to him in the future, for example. But yeah, this is a mechanic that I noticed in past games too. I believe Trails games do this too. I want to say there were some moments of Trails of Cold Steel where Reen wasn't in your party, because I feel like the character cast is so big in Trails of Cold Steel where there had to be some points where you didn't use Reen. Technically in Trails of Cold Steel 3, Reen isn't even in it for the longest time, so if you want to count that, you can count that. But because there's so many characters, you do get kind of that varied party composition where you get to use other characters a lot, and because of that, you do get the same experience as in Rebirth, where you kind of get used to other characters and you kind of get to feel who the characters you like are, and because of that, as you move forward in the game, you will get to main those characters if you want. So yeah, not much more to talk about, honestly. This is just a mechanic that I thought was very interesting in Rebirth, and it really explicitly showed me that there's certain characters that I really like that I want to use more. And not only that, I kind of like them as characters too at that point, because Red, I was using him during his story segment of the game, and through that I did end up liking him more, and so I wanted to use him more. But yeah, forcing the player to use characters that are not the main character is a good idea, and hopefully you get to see this in more games. And not much more to talk about that, but yeah, let's just move on to the final segment, which is my JRPG casual top list. And in this final quick segment, I pretty much go through a casual top list that is related to JRPGs. This one is very, very, very loosely related to JRPGs. It is going to be my top mobile games. All of them are based on Japanese IP, but they're technically not JRPGs. But yeah, I have my top 3 lists. Let me just rattle them off real quick. Number 3, Pokemon Go. Number 2, Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key. Number 1, Dragon Ball Legends. So let me just go through them. Pokemon Go, this is here for obvious reasons. It was fucking huge. It was really fun. I thought the gameplay was great. It was cool what it did to the world. Everyone came together and we were happy for a second. But the only reason it's not higher is because the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Pokemon Go really felt less like a game and more like a simulator. I don't know how it is now. Maybe it's different now. But at the time, it really felt like you were just going out to catch Pokemon and that was it. Like, it was literally a Pokemon catching simulator rather than a game. Whereas with Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, for example, that is coming out, they're going to have that same kind of GPS mechanic, but that's just a small aspect of a full game where they're going to have a story, they're going to have different modes, etc., etc., etc. Whereas Pokemon Go was literally just catching Pokemon. Now, maybe they have a story now, maybe there's more to do, I don't know, but that's the reason it's at number 3 and not higher, because it was literally just the catching aspect. And at number 2, we have Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key. I loved Unchained Key. This was probably the first mobile game that I really got into that's kind of the gacha style. I played it for years. I dropped off here and there, but I kept coming back every once in a while. At some point, it was kind of getting hard for me to keep up because they kept scaling everything weirdly if you didn't play for a while, and so I just watched the rest on YouTube. But I still thought it was a great game. I wasn't the biggest fan of the weird art style they like using for mobile games, but thankfully it seems to be going away in Missing Link. But yeah, Unchained Key, I thought gameplay wise was really fun, and it was just fun playing multiplayer too when they added kind of more multiplayer focused modes in the future. But from there, we'll go to my number 1 pick, which is Dragon Ball Legends. Dragon Ball Legends is number 1 specifically for the reason, actually 2 reasons. One is I think the gameplay is really fucking good. Before Dragon Ball Legends, the only Dragon Ball mobile game I played was Dokkan, and I think Dokkan is fucking shit compared to it. In terms of gameplay, at least, it's just a freaking not even a match 3 game. I don't know what that type of game is called, where you're it's kind of match 3-ish. Not only that, I never felt any incentive to play it because there wasn't really a good story, and on top of that, the entire point of gacha games is to pull characters. And there's this moment I realized when I was playing Dokkan is there's no reason to pull a character in it. Because literally, if you pull a character, the only thing it did was change the PNG that was on top of the Match 3 game you were playing. And that's all. So there was no reason, if I pulled a character that I really liked, there was no reason to get excited for it because they didn't do anything in the game. Whereas in Dragon Ball Legends, you actually get to fight as a character. The gameplay is literally fighting. It's like a Dragon Ball game. You have different abilities. You get to use the super moves. You get to have cool cutscenes and finishers, etc., etc. And so whenever you pull the character that you actually like, the gameplay actually felt different because they had different animations and whatnot and moves. So I like that aspect of Dragon Ball Legends. And even more on top of that, I've said this before, I think, in a video, but I think Dragon Ball Legends, the story mode of what I played of it, was probably my favorite video game Dragon Ball story. If you compare to every single console game that's come out, I think Dragon Ball stories in video games are usually not that good because they just retread. I think Xenoverse was the only one on consoles that's actually properly good, but I think Dragon Ball Legends was even better. I just really like the concept that characters from different universes are coming to fight in a tournament, and you'd have Goku from whatever universe, and then you'd have different characters. You have Charlotte that you're playing as. You'd have these mysterious characters you didn't know that would get revealed after. And so I thought that plot was really good. They had interesting characters. Their original characters I thought were good. I liked Charlotte. I liked that blue guy. I can't remember his name. Started with a Z. I just liked everything that was going on, and whenever I used to play it, it was actually very compelling for me to keep going forward, and whenever I caught up to the story, it fucking sucked because I wanted to continue it. And whenever a new story segment came out, I remember playing it. I haven't played it in years at this point, but I just remember it being pretty enjoyable, where I used to play it, and I at some point I do think I'm gonna go back to it and catch up to the story. But yeah, story wise, gameplay wise, I think Dragon Ball Legends was one of the best and probably my favorite mobile game. But yeah, that was my list. At number 3 I had Pokemon Go, at number 2 I had Unchained Key, and at number 1 I had Dragon Ball Legends. And that will end off episode 14 of Spill the Tearal. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Kind of a slow news and release week, but I kind of filled in with my Rebirth conversation, so hopefully you enjoyed that. And I mentioned this last week too, but if you are not, remember to follow me on Twitter/X. I am there at Spill the Tearal. I'm tweeting there pretty often, so if you want to stay up to date or, kind of talk to me there, you can. But yeah, if you're just listening or watching to this the first time, remember to like it if you liked it. Remember to subscribe if you're new. If you just want to listen to it and not watch it, I am on audio services under Spill the Tearal. That is the name of the podcast. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I see you guys next week. Peace.